Hey everyone, and welcome to Getting Deep with Deep. My name is Deep, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how I cycled my tank, how it started up, what plants I added, what shrimp, and what fish eventually. So stick around. So following up on my previous video where I was talking to you about all the research I did. So for this tank eventually then I had to do more and more research. I looked up at Facebook Marketplace, and Canada has an app called Kijiji. So I looked there as well. At the same time I was looking at places like PetSmart, Big Al's, all these places where they sell you starter kits. Now, I was wondering whether I should get a starter kit or a pre-loved tank. Now the thing is with starter kits, they give you everything. They do give you your heater, most of them, your thermometer, your filter, the tank, and they do also give you some net, some water conditioner, stuff like that. Depends on every tank, every starter kit. So I was, looking at the costs, and eventually I thought, no, I think it's better that I get a pre-loved kit, where basically people who have used their tank or they have too many now, they're selling their previous tanks. So I was looking around, right, and most of them were good, decently priced tanks, but they had gravel as a substrate, or they didn't have plants with it, or what I'm getting at basically. As a starter, as a first timer, I wanted to have some help while I started up as well. It's not just like I have to get everything, and I also was looking whether the person had enough information about planted tanks, about cycling a tank and stuff like that. So I did look around, and eventually on Kijiji I found a person, and I spoke to her. I was chatting with her and telling her that, hey, this is my first time, starting a tank, and what all could you give me with it and stuff like that. And she was already giving plans with it, so which was a good thing. So after a few back and forth, I eventually decided to go and check it out. So when I got there, by my surprise, she already had a fish room set up, and she had about, I think, 10 to 15 tanks, 5 gallons and 10 gallons, and then she was starting up, I think, a 30 gallon. So she was getting rid of a bit of her previous tanks that she doesn't use anymore. So by my luck, it was good, because she also was selling plants with those other tanks. I mean, she's selling tanks, but she has plants as well. She's propagating and selling, which was good. I got a lot of information from her, and eventually she was selling the tank with a few stems of Rotala rotundifolia, with a gravel mixed with fluval stratum substrate, a heater, a filter. I got a sponge filter with it, the lid with the light basically, and yeah, that was it. And then I eventually said, hey, I would love to start, with a few more plants and maybe a few snails if you think they would be hardy enough to go with the cycling. And also I had done my research, right? So I did know that if I do have some gravel or some kind of substrate from a previous tank, my cycling would be quicker, right? So yeah, we decided that I'm gonna get these plants. See, she had Rotala indica, jungle val, Rotala rotundifolia, and about 5 or 6 ramshorn snails. That's why I ended up getting, and I got that back home. Now I wanted some fluid stratum, because I wanted a darker substrate, darker layer basically. As you can see now, it's not totally dark. It has some gravel mixed up, so I'll explain why that happened. But yeah, I was waiting for that, and I ordered some aquascaping tools as well, just for the ease of access. You don't really have to get specific aquascaping tools. You can always have, if you have tweezers and you have some sort of thin scissors, stainless steel would work too. But I decided, nah, it would be good because the scissors had a curved end, and tweezers also, there were 2 types of tweezers, and I just thought it would be better. So while I was waiting for that, I decided I wanted to paint the background black. Now she already had one side painted black. I think it was for a better. I don't remember, but that was the reason it was painted black. And I'm like, no, I would like the background black, because now, as you see, it's a plain wall behind, but I do also have some storage behind it. So I thought it would be better if it was a black background. So while waiting, I painted the background black, and once the fluval stratum came in, I was happy. And what I did was, so her gravel and fluval stratum mixed substrate, what I did was I add a thin layer of that first, and then over that I added extra layer of fluval stratum. What I did was a small thin layer going up to a thicker layer, so like a slopey effect, but not exactly just from here. Like my view every day, because I use this table a lot while using my laptop, so my view was from the edge. So what I did was I added like a corner slopey effect, so in the corner there is a bit higher, you know so I went with that. I planted the plants. Now the thing is, because the plants were in the bag, I think the Rotala rotundifolia, unfortunately the leaves started dying out when I added it in. Uh, but I also ordered some plants from, I think it was Aquatic Plants Man, and I ordered some Bacopa Caroliniana. I'm not sure how to say it. I ordered some Saswasatang, sorry, and it was Marsilia crenata. So I ordered these plants while I started up this tank. I was waiting for it to cycle. Now the thing is, her sponge filter also had some bio media, so it's like a sponge filter, a thin layer of sponge filter, and then there's a container that holds like gravel or stones or something. So that was already used as well. Now, keeping in mind my gravel thin layer of previous substrate, plus that really helped with my cycling, right? So as I added these plants, the new plants, and I was working on it, I was waiting just for things to clear up. I could see bubbling and stuff like that, but eventually that was just a day or two, right? And it felt like the tank was pretty cycled, because the snails were happy, they were eating around. I also ordered some choya wood. So basically I ordered choya wood instead of driftwood and stuff. Reason being, I thought it's a small tank, my first ever Aquascape, so I didn't really want to get into the driftwood and bigger wood material yet. And so I ordered some choya wood after research, finding out as well that it's really good for shrimp. And I wanted shrimp, of course. I mean, I didn't think of a shrimp only tank. I was thinking to add fish eventually, but it's good hiding spaces, it's good biomedia, biofilter basically on the choya wood, and I could see that my snails were really happy with it as well. So I boiled the choya wood for about over an hour, because mostly any wood that you get, if it's not pre-submersed in water, it needs to soak in the water and then it will sink, otherwise it won't. So it took me quite a while. I had 3 pieces. I basically wanted to reenact like a riverbed, forest jungle kind of vibe, right? So if you can see here, there's more stem plants and stuff on this side. Reason being, I wanted it to be like out you're entering a jungle, like you would if you would be walking through and there's a riverbank, you see some tree trunks, and then even in the forest there is a lot of tree trunks and stuff. So I went for that kind of effect right here. And yeah, so I waited, let it cycle for about a week or so, and after that I decided to get some test strips. Now a master kit would be best and ideal for this situation, but remember, I was trying to keep it low budget. Now a master kit costs you about $50, whereas these test strips I think were only $15. You can just look up any on Amazon and you'll find a lot of options. So I got, I think, a 7-in-1 test strip that tests your nitrates, your chlorine, your KH, your hardness, and your pH, right? So once I got those strips, I tested it and it seemed perfect. A bit too good to be true. Well, it's my first time, you gotta remember. So I thought that, oh, it might work adding all this media from before, right? But turns out it was great. There was no problems. The pH was sitting at 7.6 to 7.4. Nitrites and nitrates were almost gone, pretty much zero. So I decided to get some shrimp. And again, I looked up Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace, you're not allowed to sell livestock, pets and stuff of that sort. So I was more dependent on Kijiji, and eventually I found someone close by who was very nice enough to even drop it off, because I don't drive, and it was snowing at that time. So exposing them to the cold outside would also stress them while once they come home and stuff like that. So he was very nice enough to give me. I got 8 blue dreams, and he gave me two, I would say, wild type clear shrimps with them, and he gave me a stem of hornwort as well with it, because I was interested in adding a few more plants at that point. So I was asking him, because he did have some plants, and he decided to be nice enough and give me a stem of hornwort, and he knew that one stem of hornwort would be enough, because as you can see, that grew quite a bit, especially because it lives in the water column. I tried to plant it into the substrate, but it didn't do well, and it started floating up because my snails would love to go over it and eat, all the stuff from the leaves or whatever, and it would just come up. So I decided, hey, I'm just gonna let it be a floater-ish kind of plant for the time being, and I did that while I was just observing the shrimp are all good, everything's happy, everything's, no one's stressed out, no one's passed away. So I did not get any deaths at all, except for one, which was my fault. I kind of stressed out that shrimp while trying to net it, because I was trying to give it a salt bath. Now I'll talk about that later, but basically I stressed it out. The next day I found it unfortunately passed away. But in that time, the hornwater was growing, everything was growing decent, all right. It was mainly slow growing plants. The bacopa was doing good. I tried to propagate it. I didn't really know how to, so I tried to propagate it by cutting the stems on top and doing all of that. But yeah, you keep doing the process and you learn, right? So yeah, that was how I eventually got all these plants. And as time went by, I wanted some fish. I wanted to make sure that it was good enough for fish as well. The shrimp were doing healthy, they were happy, so I decided, okay, it's time. And I did a lot of research on that too, right? So I wanted to get chili rasboras. There was a lot of other options. A lot of people suggest there are many for nano tanks, 5.5, 5-gallon tanks. But I wanted some chili rasboras. But before that, if you would have noticed, there was a lid on my tank with light inside, which had about 3 bulbs, white light, and I thought that it wasn't enough for the plants. It was pretty dark, especially because the side panel was painted black too. So I decided to, hey, let me scrape off the side panel with paint and see if that works. I did that. It did not really work. Because I mean, the back panel is painted black, but also 3 white bulbs is not going to do much, right? So I looked up online, and eventually I found Nicrew lights. I found the Nicrew 24/7 RGBW light, which was a really good budgeted light. And but upon my research, I found out that Nicrew is a very trustable brand. So I eventually bought that as well. I do have an unboxing and first impressions for that coming up later. But I got that light and I added it, and it made a huge difference. Right now it's at about 30%, but at 100% it's really bright. So I added that light, and I could already see my plants were growing, right? My rotalas started blooming. Bacopa was really happy. So I'm like, okay, the lights are also good. Now I can add some fish. So first I got the light. I was happy with it. I looked up online, and I found Canopy Florist and Aquarium Shop on Gerrard Street East in Toronto. This guy, Eric, he's a young kid. I think he's 20, 21. I might be wrong. I forgot. But I spoke to him on Kijiji, and I previously had asked him about some green neon dwarf rasboras, I think, and I wasn't really sure because at that time I was adding shrimp too, and I was like, maybe I should wait, right? Also because the budget was going higher. So I waited, and then eventually I realized he also has chili rasboras, which was perfect. I was looking around everywhere. I think this was during Christmas time, and yeah, it was pretty much out of stock everywhere because everyone had discounts and stuff like that. And this guy had his last 8 chili rasboras left, which was like, well, I think it's meant to be. So I decided to go there. He also had, I wanted some carpeting plants and some floaters. I decided Marsilia cronata as a carpeting is great, but it's almost like a 3-leaf clover plant where it's still got stems, right? I mean, I wanted a carpet, not just stems and leaves. So I decided either Monte Carlo, but he didn't really have Monte Carlo. He had Cuba, so HC Cuba. So I got some HC Cuba. I got some red root floaters, my bad, and the chili rasboras. And eventually, I ended up adding them in the tank. They took about a day or two to de-stress and start popping their color, but yeah, and this is what I came up with. It was really fruitful, I would say, really peaceful. The inner satisfaction is really nice when you see things are starting to grow. And I eventually also got liquid fertilizer from it's the 2R Aquarius, I think, and I started using that too, and my plants started coloring up really well. They grew really well. Now the thing is, I knew my substrate was good enough for the stem plants, but I felt like my water colony wasn't great enough for the hornwort and the floaters, because also the floaters, I got them in and I realized they once I put them in my tank, my snails do eat all the dead leaf and all of that of different plants. So they did eat quite a bit of those plants, and I realized that, hey, they don't seem really healthy, and it seems my water colony might not be the perfect for that. So I added some liquid fertilizer, and that started doing great as well. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing for this tank. For now, I have some about 8 chili rasboras. I have I think should be 10 or 11 blue dream shrimp, because I did see a baby somehow coming through the transport maybe, and yeah, some snails, ramshorn snails, and things are doing well. Things have been good. Everything's growing. No one's been stressed out. No fish has died. The only one unfortunate event I had was with the one clear Neocaridina that unfortunately passed away, but everything else is doing great. So thank you for watching. I am going to be doing more videos about the chili rasboras, about the blue dreams, about the lights and stuff. So do stick around if you like this video and this kind of content. So yeah, catch you soon. Thank you, take care, and be nice to everyone. Yeah.